Donna Giroux, a semi-retired pharmacist from Lafayette. She could not be here tonight, so I'll read it for you. Social Security, she says, is and will continue to be depended upon by many middle and low-income citizens. Some sensible adjustments suggested to assure the solvency of the program are to raise the amount of wages subject to withholding and to increase the age at which full benefits can be received. Do you support these changes? And this goes first to Mr. Luger.
Yes, I think those are changes that are going to be required very definitely. And the question is how rapidly to escalate the situation. Various plans that I've seen that try to work through this in actuarial tables would suggest that we ought to move to increase the amount beyond $110,000 of wages on which Social Security is now figured. But to do so incrementally in various ways so that this is not a great shock to those that are above 110,000. At the same time, we really are going to have to think through how we change the age of retirement situation for Social Security. Many suggest maybe a few days or weeks of each year over the course of time so that this does not move rapidly and thus upset plans of people abnormally. But any movement of either the coverage levels or the age of retirement or other aspects will have huge impact with regard to a very, very large part of our federal budget. And the need to do this is apparent. It was apparent back in about 1983. I was among those debating that issue on that occasion. And we did, I believe, save Social Security at that stage. And there were changes made then that were controversial because they always are if you touch Social Security in whatever way. But it does need to happen. And so while we're thinking about Medicare reform, we need to think about Social Security reform. And as we've already expressed in this debate, Medicaid reform. These are huge parts of the so-called entitlement picture that make a big difference in balancing the budget and moving from the trillions of debt that we now have.
Mr. Murdock.
Certainly there does need to be more protection offered to the Social Security system. Today it is simply mathematically not something that can continue. I do believe the retirement age is going to be raised, as the Senator said. I think it's a necessity and it's going to happen in a well thought out and step-by-step process. As I said before, we need to start letting younger people know that they have a different set of promises, and I think we need to provide them with a different set of promises, the understanding that they also have an obligation to save for themselves. You know, when Social Security began, it was not meant at all to be that system upon which a person would totally base their retirement. Back when it started, for every one person getting a benefit, there were 66 people paying in. Now it's basically about 2 to 1. We have to set up both tax systems and a Social Security system that allow people to have more incentives to save on their own as an option if they choose to do that. You know, traditionally the markets of investing have done far better than what Social Security has brought back. But again, that should be something people get to decide upon as their own choice. I again want to say, though, Social Security is something that needs to be protected, not just in the sense of what we do with the mathematical function to make sure enough money is coming in that they'll be there in the end, but we need also to make sure that the Congress isn't constantly pulling money out of Social Security for other things.
30 seconds for rebuttal, Mr. Luger.
Well, I certainly agree about pulling the money out for other things, and that does occur all of the time, and it's really unconscionable. But at the same time, it just seems to me important to rejoice in the fact that Americans are, by and large, growing older. That the actuarial tables have changed from Americans dying on an average of 65 during the New Deal days to closer to 85 presently. And that really requires some very thoughtful work with regard to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security.
And Mr. Murdock, 30 seconds.
Well, as I mentioned, we need to protect Social Security, and there were at least 2 votes in the not-too-distant past when Mr. Luger went the other way. There were 2 calls to have some benefits from Social Security go to people who were actually in the country illegally. I would have voted the opposite way in those votes. I would not have accepted those votes. That's exactly the kind of protection I think we need to provide for that fund for our older citizens.
Next. I would say that that's unfair. I did not have votes for illegal Social Security payments to persons.
All right, now, next question.